Calgary entrepreneur and EOS coach Chris knows the highs and lows of scaling. He lost 70% of his business overnight, then rebuilt stronger. Through EOS Worldwide, he now helps leaders simplify, focus, and grow with confidence. You wrote a book called Relentless AF. What does it mean to be relentless?
When I was first starting and just grinding to try and make a living out of what I was doing, and my business phone had an online website selling football gloves, and my phone would ring at 3:30 in the morning. And I'd wake up from a dead sleep to sell a $40 pair of gloves. Hendrick Sports, Chris speaking, and act like I was on it, and could wake up in 2 rings to get up, and then I'd take the information and I'd go back to sleep. But that mindset to find a way in difficult times to figure things out, I knew it probably wasn't sustainable to do that. What I've learned over time, one of my superpowers is to shift mindsets, and it starts with mind. So I've encountered some really interesting challenges, crises even in my business over time and in my life. And can I take something that what might seem horrible and turn it into not like just to endure it, but like flourish and grow through it? The really hard things are actually the most unbelievable opportunities to make something incredible. So that relentless mindset, and AF, like AF stands for and fun, right? I don't know what you're thinking, but can we pair these two concepts of the relentless, like I'm going to go, 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 and have fun at the same time? Because I was either goofball Chris or I was super serious, intense Chris. And they both had like their drawbacks. But when I could marry the two, that's when I learned like, holy crap, that's when I'm at my best. And that's actually when I'm like a magnet that attracts other people around me. Like that's really worked for me in my life.
When you first started, kind of taking these calls at 3 a.m., the average person, I would argue, isn't that person that's going to pick up the phone, take the order. Was it like a life experience that taught you that that's what you needed to do? Or was it just innate within you? What was that drive to do that?
Like it wasn't a question whether I'd do it. It was just the phone rang. I was going to go get it. I don't sleep with a phone in my bedroom anymore. So this has changed, right? Let's get clear. But at that point, it was just like, this is just what I'm doing. Why wouldn't I do that? Yeah, it wasn't an option.
You were talking about business Chris and fun Chris. You said that you identified that like that was the person that you wanted to be, and that was the person that was fun to be around for other people. Was there a defining moment where you understood that?
And as an EOS implementer, we're surrounded by this community of the most amazing people. To do what we do, we're a teacher, a coach, a facilitator. And to do what we do well, to become a true master, we really have to understand ourselves. So we get together once a quarter, and then weekly and even daily, there's opportunities for us to learn and grow and collaborate as a community to get better. And we reflect back on what went well this quarter or this month or this week, or what didn't go well, what's working, what's not working. And we ask ourselves these questions all the time. And I started to really reflect on like, when was I my best in the session room? And there was the relentless me that just had no stop button, which is how I've run a lot. I mean, especially as an athlete, I was insanely intense. And I would drive people away because of that intensity. And I was doing some of that in the session room with my clients that I was coaching and working with. And I'm like, that's not working so well. They were fighting back. I don't think it was producing the best results. And then there were other times where I'd start to mix in and the people, there was just a certain feel of a team. Every team is different. And some of them I was quite good friends with and knew them fairly well. And we had a lot of fun outside the session room before. And then they're like, hey, let's work together. So then I went in the room, and it was kind of like a little bit of a joking atmosphere, but I'd also kick some ass at the same time. And at the end of the day, and I'd look back at the reflection of like, that was so much fun. And we got a lot done, and they walked out of there fired up instead of like this, heads banging. And I'm going, It really started to hit me of like, it's when I merged the two things. Because if I'm total goofball, then we get nothing done. And I knew that wasn't an option. It really got more enjoyable. And then I also poked fun at myself and like having like, oh yeah, guys, I totally effed that up. Let's start this over. We're going to try and just sort of that humility of what I didn't need to be the ego and the hero at the front of the room anymore. When that started to happen and that's other stuff calmed down, is I really started to peel the onion of, I think, the best version of myself. So that's where it came from.
Do you find that when you're dealing with clients and that sort of thing, that they're attracted to that fact? The way that you implement business, the way that you carry it through is in a fun way kind of thing. You know what I mean? Like, I guess I'd liken it to the fact that some people have an opinion that, business shouldn't be fun.
I'm not the right fit for everybody. The ones that I'm the right fit for, we have a shit ton of fun in the session room and inside and out. And it gets really hard some days. It's not fun all the time, but we always have fun every session in moments. And so I tell them that right from the start, we can have fun if we choose to. So let's try that. That's too informal for some, and I'm not the right fit. They want a buttoned up, nice shoes, pro at the front of the room that feels like a Harvard grad sort, a McKinsey consultant. I'm like, cool, I'll refer you. We have people in our community that are more that style. I'm going to drop an F-bomb in the session. I'm going to tell you, pull your head out of your ass if I don't think if you're bringing your A game. It's all because I want to see you become your best. But if that style doesn't work for you, I'm really okay with that. And I'll help you find someone that is a better fit.
Did you learn that not everybody is a good fit, just in general, like from a pre-EOS implementation?
Yeah.
Is there a story there?
I think the easiest one is around bringing people into the business. And I remember the, hire for attitude, train for skill. And I'm like, oh, that makes total sense. Like, hire people with great attitudes. But that didn't always work because they were shitty at their job if I didn't make the right hire. And I definitely hired for skill a number of times. And then it ended up with people that were just an absolute culture clash. And so I was trying my best, but not getting the right people on the bus, as Jim Collins put it, right? And Good to Great. I'm like, what am I missing? Like, I want the right people on the bus. I want them in the right seats, but I didn't know how. And so that was a learning process to figure that one out. And I encourage some people to join the company, probably shouldn't have joined the company. I can still bring the passion, but I'm way more about, let's see if we can find the right fit. And then I've also learned tools to help us figure out right person, right seat, and that reduces the errors in the hiring process.
What are some of the tools that you've implemented for finding the right people?
One of the things when I read Traction by Gino Wickman, and I tried a whole bunch of business systems to that point, and I read his stuff on the people, and I'm like, oh, there it is. And it was so simple. And I'm like, well, yeah, I did that at times. And then I did this other thing at times, and I did this other thing at times. But he said, here's how you bring all the three concepts together. And that's where I was like, oh, I get it, right? And it was so approachable. We had to figure our core values out. And we had core values, but some of them, as I learned over time, they weren't authentic. They were what we wanted to be. That's not what we truly were. So authentic core values. And then obviously, as we're interviewing people, look for people that authentically live those values. They're not putting the shine on, right? Everybody's shiny in interviews. And the shine starts to wear off by like the third interview, and you start to find out who they really are. And then the other thing I do, I started unselling people. I tell them, look, I know you're shiny in the interview. I would be too. I was with the handful of times I interviewed. So I get it. But here's what I ask you to do is be real with yourself, that if you don't live this way, please don't join us. I need you to self-select out of this process because only you know you authentically and real. And I say, because these aren't just words on a wall for us. This is who we really are. And if you don't live this way, we're going to be on you and we're going to be pushing conversations. They're going to be super uncomfortable and it's going to feel really awkward. And you're like, why are you bugging me about this? I'm like, because I told you from the outset, this is how we show up. And I said, so just self-select out if it's not you. We can still be friends. We go for a beer after, but we're not going to work together. So that was the first one. Then the other one was my job. I had to give clarity on structure. What is the role? Oh, I need you to just do stuff and just help us. And that's like a great startup mentality, but not a good sustainable growth mentality. Startup, yeah, you got to do anything every day. You got to do something different. Just plug holes wherever you can plug them with still some clear accountability, but a lot more of just do what needs to be done. But as we start getting into scaling and growing a business beyond startup, now we need real role clarity. And that was on me as a leader, as I didn't create enough definition around that. And can we create simple role clarity that creates clear lines of accountability? Are you truly wired to do this work? Are you genetically encoded? And if you're not, it's okay. Like, I'm not genetically encoded to be a bookkeeper. But there are people who love that stuff, and thank God, because it's not me. Right? They find solace in the repetition, the precision, of that type of work. And that's not me. I'm not genetically encoded to that, nor do I want it. And that's okay too. But figuring out, like the wiring said, what are your gifts? Everyone's got gifts. And sometimes we know them about ourselves and sometimes we don't. And it's our job as leaders actually just to help people uncover their true gifts. But if we can bring that clarity of, oh, right person, right seat, and these are the tools in which we use to do, that's the how, then all of a sudden I'm like, I started getting the hires way more correctly. We started growing way faster and it was way more peaceful and we had way more fun. You're either fitting this or you're not, and it's okay if you're not. We're just gonna have conversations if there's anything that's not working. Gave me a context for a conversation, which I really needed help with that context because I was trying really hard to figure it out, but didn't have the pinpointed clarity of like, this is what's off here.
You kind of identify this time in your life where you read Traction as an epiphany moment.
Yeah, it was during that time when I started reading Traction as I'm starting to regrow the business. And I was like, holy smokes, I'd tried a bunch of this stuff and it hadn't worked. I'm like, this we can do. So I started putting the tools in place at that time. But it actually allowed me to say, like, I'm going to do this and only this, and you're going to do this and the other parts, like, I'm not even going to touch this other stuff. Because I think if I do, we might fail. The business might go under. So I had absolute clarity that I just had to stop doing a bunch of stuff and really laser focused on a handful of other things that only I could do. And it was key to our survival, and it leveraged my gifts, and it created a roadmap for the future success, not a survival, but regrowth. And we grew 7 times in revenue in the next 2.5 years. Within 18 months or so, we were 50% bigger than we were before that conversation. So we grew it all back in 50% more in less than 2 years. Traction gave me the guidelines, and actually a lot of things it did to help me learn what I need to say no to, because I was saying yes to too many things.
That's such a big fear from entrepreneurs, especially early entrepreneurs, right? Is saying no. How did you realize that you were saying yes to too many things?
I was exhausted. There was a fear they're going to get it wrong. I need to have my eyes and hands on everything. I didn't trust my team enough. And a lot of that was because I knew that I hadn't given them enough. Well, in general, it's sort of like this, but try and do what I would do. Like, it wasn't enough. Like, I'm oversimplifying, but it was not that far off of that. Stores would call us, and I've known them since we started working with them, right? I'd known them forever. And then I hired a sales manager, and they would manage the reps and all the store accounts, kind of firing myself from that part of the business, if you will. These store owners would call the sales manager, and they'd be like, hey, like, I want to do this. Sales manager like, oh, we can't do that. We're not going to do that. So the store manager called back and asked to talk to me. And I'd be like, oh yeah, okay, I think we can make that happen. And my sales manager's go like, what the fuck? You just completely demeaned me, like, by overriding my decision. They didn't say anything. They were just like, well, you're the owner. You can make the calls you want to make. But I was totally cutting them off at the knees. You know, over a few years, I'd have the one person stayed for a couple of years, Amy. She was amazing, helped me get on my feet. She didn't hold it against me, luckily. I've talked to her about it after. And I had another guy for about a year. He didn't last even a year. And then the next guy that came in, this Frankie guy, and I started doing that to him. He says, well, why'd you hire me if you're just going to do my job for me? Good point. What helped me understand, can I give him the right structure and tools and processes, role clarity, this is your job, this is not your job. And I wasn't clear on that previous to that. Secondly, were they truly gifted at their job? And I looked at that situation and I'm like, I think Frankie's unbelievably good. So is Amy, my first person, but I just didn't empower her properly. So luckily I learned from it. But once Frankie called me out with his help, right? And so Frankie calls me out. He's really good at what he did. He was better at the details than me. He was really good at seeing the whole comprehensive picture, pulling all the pieces and making decisions. A really good decision maker. So the only reason they were calling me is they were like, oh, I didn't like the answer I got from mom, I'm going to dad, right? Like, it was that kind of an end run that they were pulling, and they were getting the results they wanted. So Frankie called me out on that. And I'm like, good point. I think you might be right. Because I did. I trusted him to do his job. But why was I having to make the call over top of him? Now that I look back at it, I was the bottleneck, right? I was in the way. I was demeaning him by running over their decisions. I was in the way. Processes, structure, systems, but also they have this thing in EOS called get it, want it, capacity to do the work, right? Get it, are you genetically encoded to do it? Frankie was genetically encoded to do that kind of work. He was really good at taking care of people, understanding their needs, helping them be successful, but also had a backbone. Like, I'm not going to give you everything, like unreasonably. And it got unreasonable at times. And then do they really want to do it? That's the W in the GWC. And then capacity, you have the acquired abilities, skills, you know, the different capacities, emotional, intellectual, physical, ability to manage time appropriately, etc. When you develop those things in place and have those in place, and they were yes to those things, I asked myself, well, why am I in the way? If we have clarity of the role, the GWC their seat, they live our core values, dude, that's my problem. I gotta let go. But when I had those simple tools in place, then I felt like I'd led them the way I needed to. And then I had the ability to let go. Those conditions weren't there before, so I was like always afraid they were gonna mess something up because I hadn't given them a good enough game plan.
This is such a frequent problem, even when people don't realize they have it. Like you said, right? You didn't realize until it was called out to you. And I'm curious, and you know, upon reflection and probably having seen this in thousands of businesses since, what do you think drives a leader to undermining their staff is a hard way of putting it, but there is some truth to that, right? And I'm curious, is it ego? Why do we not let go? Why is it so hard?
So I built a talk on this on a workshop called How to Let Go and Still Sleep at Night. I presented it the first time I presented it in San Diego about a year and a half ago. And the two underlying fears, first off, recognizing that emotions are going to win against logic every day of the week, right? It's a left-right brain side of the thing at war, and emotions win every time. And so fear is one of the most prevalent. They're going to fuck it up. They're not going to do as well as I could, which is a combination of fear and ego, right? And that pride piece. I see, fear and ego are the two that I see most prevalent in my time. And I've interviewed other leaders and they're saying they've seen the same thing. People that do what I do. Again, same type of data that we're seeing. Some of it's the fear of the unknown. What will happen? What if I don't sign off on this? I mean, founder syndrome is a real thing. There's a reason why founding owners get fired by the boards. You know, it's not just in the movies that this happens. It happens in real life where a governing board gets involved and they're like, you're in the way. And it's that unwillingness to let go that then becomes the bottleneck to growth. I think the why that I've seen is inability to manage emotions and trust the team. Right? Trust isn't an emotion. It's a result of having your emotions in place and then building trust appropriately with the people that you work with.
How do you go about doing that?
And it starts from the very first time I get them in the room. First off, it starts with being open and honest. We create a delineation between the owner's box and your active role in the business, and they're two different things. And so, hey, that's a shareholder thing. You own the business. Great. Shareholders get rights to make certain decisions in the business. Different than your active role in the business. And how do we create clear lines of what's an owner's call and what's a leadership team's call? Because the leadership team makes decisions not by consensus, not by democracy, but by who's accountable for what. And an owner is just one voice on the leadership team and everybody's equal with clear lines of accountability. So sometimes one person has to be accountable for making the call, so to speak. And it sometimes isn't even the owner. So you want to talk about trust building, you better get what you have to say on the table. And sometimes I got to get the owner to say, no one's arguing with you. Can you please give this team permission to argue with you? Say something different, because they might have been trained, just try and say what Chris said. I did that initially and I had to change that. I'm like, can you guys please start telling me I'm wrong? I want the best decision. That means it doesn't have to be mine. So a little bit of humility that coach the leaders and the owners that are like, hey, I just want it done my way. I'm like, we can't do that anymore. Not if you're going to work with me. We're going to teach you a way and it's not all going to be on you anymore. Are you okay with that? Because it's going to be hard, because letting go is hard. What are other key points around building trust? So like issue solving together builds trust. Doing a deep, meaningful check-in at the start of meetings builds trust. We do a personal and professional good at the start of every meeting. And if you say, oh, I had a great weekend, good time with the family, and business best for last week was good client sessions. What does that tell you? I can give you an example. I just had dinner, my family and one of my closest cousins and his new fiance this weekend. And he's become one of my best friends over time. And we got to celebrate with him and his fiance about this new engagement. And to have my boys and see that and just give everybody hugs was like just an amazing personal moment in the last week. Business-wise, I got to go on retreat with a bunch of my close colleagues in Michigan. It was insanely intense. It was insanely funny. And it was super grounding. We got to spend time fishing and we talked about the toughest things. And then we were in tears because we were laughing so hard at other things. I mean, that just fills my cup doing stuff like that with people like that. So that example, authentic, that all happened for me in the last 7 days. It shared who I really am and what I really care about. And that builds trust. That's vulnerability, sharing that. And not weaponizing vulnerability, but using it and telling you all what really matters to me. And if we all do that type of a check-in every day, that builds trust over time. Arguing respectfully builds trust. I love you, man, but I disagree with you, and this is why. Change my mind. I'm open to my mind being changed. That type of argument builds trust. Talking about the future of the company and making agreements on how we're going to all commit to doing some things and therefore saying no to other things and calling each other out of like, I think you're going to struggle with this because of this reason. And I say that because I want you to be successful, but I've seen you fall here before. Let's avoid that this time. That's a vulnerable conversation. In a high trust environment, they go, oh man, I hear you. Thank you for watching my back. You're right. I've struggled with this before. That response builds trust. So all these things rise like a tide, right? And high tides raise all boats, and it usually is on us as a leader to go to that level first, and then others will tend to follow if we model that behavior the right way.
That makes perfect sense, and it builds into the culture, right? That there's this aura of trust and realistically, I think respect and that sort of thing being built, because I imagine they go hand in hand, right? Like if I respect you enough and I trust you enough and I care enough about our relationship to share these things with you that matter to me, then not only does that build the opposite, you would likely feel the same towards me, but now we have other things that are more, I know more about you. I have more reason to kind of follow up with these different things and that sort of thing. So
on the flip side of that, there's ways to destroy trust that I've seen. Yeah, I need you to speak up more and make more decisions. Like, I trust you. But then when you speak up more and make more decisions and I say, that's a terrible idea, that's never going to work. So that's when our words don't align with our actions. That can destroy trust. There's another way to destroy trust I've seen happen. I'm screwing something up in my job. I'm not doing what I need to do. And you just give me positive reinforcement. Keep doing it. You're like, I know you're trying really hard. Keep going. And then you get so upset at some point, you're like, you're really screwing this up. I got to fire you or I'm going to write you up. And I'm like, whoa, wait a second. Well, you want to build trust? Give me specific feedback on how I can improve the situation. I want to perform. I don't know anybody that goes into a job saying, I'm going to screw things up today. So I want the feedback, specific and coaching of how to improve that. And so if I don't get that feedback, it's like, well, I know there's something off here, but they won't tell me. That degrades trust.
It's that idea of radical candor, right? Like you care about somebody so much that you want them to succeed. They obviously want to succeed as well, but you're not going to do that by reinforcing poor behavior.
Kim Scott's book is awesome. I've seen her speak a couple times now. I've also seen an evolution to that concept, or just a clarity. Connect plus challenge equals change, right? It's like a simple math formula. It's in that order. You got to connect first before you challenge, right? And so to Kim Scott's care personally, you got to start there, build a relationship before you're like, hey, I really want you to see these, I really like you. I want to help you. And then I'm just going to punch you in the face right away. It's like, let's create some connection first. I don't know if I'm ever going to retire from this kind of work. In some form or another, I will be doing something for as long as humanly possible. I don't think I can ever master it fully because we're such evolving, changing beings. And B, just it's such a great reason to get up in the day and have a purpose for going about my life. I may not work as much as I get older, but this type of work just fascinates me to no end.
I want to circle back to, the day in 2012 when, you lost 70% business overnight. Tell me about what happened, maybe the whole experience. So leading up to that moment, what you were doing, how you were feeling realistically is what I'm interested in.
Yeah.
And then what happened and how that affected you.
Invented a football glove, ended up going distribution right to solve the manufacturing problem because I knew where the market was going to go. Allowed us to change the quite frankly, the global football glove industry. We changed the materials of what was products were made of. So I was at the forefront of that. I signed on as an exclusive Canadian distributor. We grew it dramatically over time. Like we went from being a non-existent brand to being 90% market share in the specialty sports stores across the country. Like the wall was 90% our product. There were some conflicts that evolved over time and we weren't always on the same page with their owners. We could see it coming to the point where like I spent time with mentors that I signed up for the mentorship program with EO. And we talked about the key challenges the business was facing. And he's like, oh, I can see. So this is a problem. Like, oh yeah, it's not a matter of if, it's when we get turfed. The agreement's running out, something's going to happen. And we're fighting over too much stuff. So how I was feeling going in, that's a great question. Tenuous. I never knew what to expect going into those meetings. But I was under the impression we had another year's worth of an agreement. We just hadn't signed off on it yet. But it's like, hey, we got another year. Let's keep working. And that changed very quickly. It's over right now. We're done. I'm like, oh, damn. Didn't see that coming at all. We were in San Antonio at this coaches football show. It's a big trade show, and they call it the coaches show, but it's there at the association that runs it. And then it's the one great place that all football people go, and all the equipment's there, and all the coaches and the equipment managers and people in the business supporting the community like me. And so my wife was with me. San Antonio's a beautiful city. Take your wife. The river walk there and the music, and it's magical. Yeah, my wife was in the hotel sleeping because she got a horrible sinus cold. Felt like it was going to explode as we descend in the plane into San Antonio. So she's trying to sleep it off in the hotel. I come back to the hotel in a complete daze, and I'm like, we just got fired. We just lost 70% of our business. And she like wakes her. What's going on, right? Like I said, like it happened. So luckily my mentor that I've been working with, he was in YPO, unbelievable guy. He's like, okay, well, so this is coming. Next time we meet, I want to see a written plan B. What are you going to do when it happens? Well, he first asked me, what are you going to do when it happens? And I gave him a list, and he's like, yeah, fine. I want it written, including a budget. Where are you going to spend? What are you going to cut? Who are you going to cut? What's your plan? So it happens. Go back, talk to my wife. What do we do? I mean, my head's on my butt. I can't see the forest for the trees. Like, do we shut it down? Do I go back to school? Do I go get a job somewhere? Do we keep it rolling and try and rebuild it? I'm like, oh, what about the plan B? Where is it? Like, my head's just spinning, right? And I pull the plan B out, and all 100 decisions have been made. 98 of them were good. 2 of them weren't good. Like, I can make those. Like, given the circumstances, these 2 things don't make sense. But these other ones are all good. So I only had to make 2 decisions instead of 100. Man, unbelievable. I was working with another mentor in East Canada, and he'd been through it before. I call him up, Peter, it happened. And he's like, first off, I'm sorry. I know how painful this is. You put your heart and soul into building these brands, and it's just over. He says, I've been there. But he coached me through that moment in time, and I'll forever be grateful for that mentorship. And then my EO forum was instrumental in what I did next. And all that culminated in, let's rebuild this. Yeah, and then traction comes in right around that time, and we regrow it using these rules of the game, and rocket ship.
It sounds like you were super prepared for this moment. Like, I'm not downplaying the fact that it, obviously sucks when it happened.
Oh yeah, it was like getting hit by a truck. It was super painful. Yeah.
But you had made these decisions, and
Yep.
that's incredible. Like, it sounds like mentorship, you had multiple at the time, and now I know that you mentor others, and I'm sure you also have mentors.
Yeah.
What role has mentorship played in your, both personal and business life?
Dramatic. It's been a huge positive for me. Been very fortunate to have some incredible mentors and coaches in my life for business and life. And the good ones have done both. And some of them have been very business focused. And others have been, I think as I've gotten older, more mature, it's been really more of a balanced approach. I got quite intentional. Like I sought out a mentor to solve one problem. I used the tools in EOS to work my way out of the business. At one point I recognized I was the linchpin. If you'd remove me, business wouldn't have survived. I'm like, I need to fix this, right? I've created a job, not a business, got me here, but it won't get me to where I want to go. And so I got to the point where I was only working 3 hours a month. And I'm like, that's not a position I've been in, but I've heard a lot of people in this type of position, and like 50-50 whether they screwed it up royally or not, or maybe even worse than that. Like there's a good chance that I'll mess it up. There's someone who has done this before. I'm sure of it. So I specifically went out and tried to find a mentor that had solved that problem and walked that path successfully. And so I went and found a mentor and targeted somebody who I thought had done it. Kim McConnell of Ad Farm. You ever heard the Ad Farm founder?
Yeah.
I have so much respect for that guy. Anyways, the funniest thing in that meeting, he's like, "Oh, Chris, I haven't done that. I'm the wrong guy." I was totally crestfallen. I'm like, "I think you could totally help me with something like this." But he's like, "No, I haven't done what you're trying to do." He says, "But I know someone who has, and I'll introduce you." I ended up connecting with a guy named Dave Robson. He started Veritas. Mentorship has helped me a lot because it's just helped me see things. They put the puck in the net in areas where I haven't. And I search out mentors that have had success and where I want to go. That's been a huge positive for me. And then I've done it for others and enjoy that too. And it's a great experience.
Do you have any advice for evaluating a mentor-mentee relationship, when it makes sense, and maybe the mentor-mentee relationship has kind of run its course, because you can also graduate out of that, right?
Absolutely. I think it starts with getting clear what you want out of the relationship. So being clear on what are your intentions out of this? What are you hoping to learn? Where do you want to go and where do you want help? I mean, sometimes wonderful things can come from random collisions, but I want to be respectful of my mentor's time. And so therefore, I think some thought around that intention is really important. Again, offer of what can you contribute as the mentee in the relationship is really important. Do I pay you for your time? Do I give you reports on what people in my area, there needs to be an exchange of some form. Not all of them will accept money. Some will. Some of them want other things. I had one guy say he wanted, real estate reports from an area we were looking at because he was a real estate guy. I'm like, okay. So I gave him reports for like 10 years on what was happening that I saw. And then having a defined time frame or agreement around the time frame. That is this a 1-year engagement? Is this in perpetuity? What does the resolution look like? Do we just stop talking to each other? Do we have a concluding conversation? Talk about what's working, what not working, etc. So I have a written agreement with my current mentor is in Tucson right now. So we're very clear and on the same page of what the relationship entails, where it's going, what it's all about. I'm not all about the money. Some people are. Mr. Wonderful is going to be all about the money. I'm not. There's got to be purpose. I'm a family first guy. I want a mentor that reflects those values, especially as I start getting more personal stuff, but as an entrepreneur, everything's so interrelated. So I think a values fit's also important.
It sounds like a common thread. You were just mentioning how you have this written agreement kind of with your mentor, and then, also your previous mentor had you, write down your potential scenarios. Writing down seems to be a common thread of some of these things that I'm seeing. What do you think the difference is between, writing something down, whether it be an intention or whatever the case may be, and just like thinking through it?
I don't know. For me, I don't remember everything. So let's start there. It's like, I can go back to it and refer to it. Wow, these are the 5, it's not a lengthy agreement. It's a 1-pager. But if there's any other lack of clarity, let's go back and review. These are the key deal points that we agreed to step up and execute as part of this in order to make it work. I think a lot of people talk, but writing it down makes it real. It just creates another level of commitment when it's written.
You just touched on how, your family first, and that's apparent. Do you believe in balance? What does that look like for you? There's so many different theories and ways to talk about this kind of topic, but I'm curious, obviously, like you're busy with your business is successful, you've done all these different things, you also have a family at home that you prioritize. What does that look like for you?
Yeah, I think I've learned over time that I can understand someone's priority when I see their calendar. And so they say family's important, but then where is it on their calendar? How do they plan? Is family getting the leftovers? How does the week look? Apply the same things to myself. Like, what's in my calendar? How do I approach that? What do I do when I'm burnt out? Did the family get the leftover version of me? There's a lot of different ways that I've been able to integrate family into my life. Yeah, and I see a lot of these things, work-life balance doesn't work and all this. I remember hearing that from a CEO of a big corporation at like a UFC, Calgary thing. And she's like, yeah, work, it's not possible if you're going to be a CEO of a company. I just totally disagree with her. I think that's an excuse to ignore your family. I mean, I've never run a $10 billion organization, but I think we owe it to ourselves and the teammates around us as leaders is what pathway are we going to model? Oh, if you're going to be an entrepreneur, you're just going to give up your family life so that your business can succeed? So that all your employees can have a family life? Or are they going to follow you in your footsteps? Because most people will. Well, the CEO's working 60 hours a week. I guess that means I should. Well, the CEO's skipping family events. I guess that means I should. And so we're setting the precedent. So I think we owe it to ourselves, our families, and the people around us to chart a path and set an example what this looks like. I'll tell you a little bit what's going on in my life these days around this. So first off, I schedule my free days off over the course of the year first. Like at any given point, I've got 12 months of days blocked off in the calendar, and I have a target number of days off a year is 200 work days, 165 days off. And so I measure that. I've been between 160 and 168 for the last 6 years. And so I block the time off and to start, right? So there's the priority there. But I swear some of it is hard to measure at times. I'll tell you why. Like people, like you get on a plane, they're like, is it business or pleasure? And I'm like, I sometimes can't answer. I'm like, both? Like in February, I went on a trip to San Antonio, back to the scene of the crime, to be with my EOS community for our annual planning. So we had 3 wonderful days in San Antonio, connecting with these people I absolutely love. They're so much fun to work with. And we did so much focused work while we're there. And we go to dinner together and talk about our families and what's going on. It was just an amazing experience. I flew from there to Utah and had my 18-year-old son meet us there because a bunch of us after the annual went skiing together. And we brought our family, our kids and spouses, and clients came to this event. There were 28 of us skiing in Utah for 3 days. And my kids meeting other people's kids that are, an 18-year-old, he's started our first business. He just started his first business and he's talking to these other kids or even in the same industry. Like, tell me whether that's business or family, I don't know. But it's everything all at once and it's so incredible. And so I think it's the concept of stacking, right? Have you ever seen the health wheel?
Yeah.
Where you've got like 7 or 8 wedges and can you stack health, skiing, business, community, family with my son there, spiritual, I regenerate in the mountains, I fills my soul. Like I'm hitting all these things all at the same time. And can we not design our life around that? It's intentional, but there's also freedom to like be spontaneous. And anyways, that I could go on about that. It's something I'm really passionate about. I've been in the strategic coach program for about 4 years now. And you see trends. Entrepreneur leaders, like 40 entrepreneurs in a room together. I think Americans are worse than Canadians. More Americans say, I haven't taken a real vacation in 7 years. I've heard more Americans make that statement than Canadians. They hear me at 165 and they're like, how is that possible? Like no one's holding a gun to your head saying you need to work every day of the week. Like, well, what are you doing? Well, I want to be successful. I'm like, okay, where? What's success's definition for you? Is that kids that know who you are and you know who your kids are? Or is that your business hit X number in revenue? Like, what's your success? Can you gain clarity on that? I think balance, however you want to call it, choose your priorities. It starts there. Then you got to execute on them. And how does that look?
And it's different for everybody, right? Everybody has their own priorities and different avenues or wedges, of their life and that sort of thing. So it's hard to generalize as to what would work for everybody, but I think what we can agree on is what it feels like when you achieve that balance. What was that feeling for you when you found it?
I didn't know what to do with myself with this much time off. I'm like, I should schedule more time off. I can do this. Let's just be intentional about it. I'm like, I think I need a vacation planner because I don't know. I don't know what to do. And I better start putting more money aside because vacations cost money. I mean, I took some time off running the sporting goods business. I got a little better at it over time. So I was really bad at vacation earlier on. But there was a fear of letting go, like checking emails and staying in touch and even calling the office. And when I was a kid, I think I was grade 3, grade 2 or grade 3, I did a project on like ideal place in the world to go. And I wanted to go to Hawaii. So I created a scrapbook. I can still see it of my vacation to Hawaii and a place in the world I wanted to go and explore. Now, my family wasn't in a position to ever go to Hawaii. It was okay. I had a wonderful childhood and very supportive parents. We drove our tent trailer camping. That was our vacation, and it was awesome. I loved that. But Hawaii wasn't in the cards, and that was okay. So I finally get to a point of success in my business where I'm going to take my entire family to Hawaii. 2 young kids, my wife, the 4 of us, and we booked 2 weeks in Hawaii. What's the first thing I did when I got to Hawaii? I went and found an internet cafe, hooked up my laptop, and found a way to Skype call my team back in Calgary. How's everything going? What do you need to talk about? And they're like, what are you doing? I'm like, I don't know. I just want to stay in touch. And they're like, we got it. And Frankie, this is a theme. There's a reason why Frankie and I are working together again. Frankie's like, dude, you're in Hawaii. We've got this. You don't need to call us. And my response is, but I want to. And that was that fear. I hadn't given them enough tools and all that stuff was showing up again. The more vacations I took just it was like a disconnection, which was painful for me as the owner that hadn't let go yet. I say yet, right? And then I learned, well, if I'm going to lead my team effectively, what if I had great people with good structure and tools and processes, and I had to be prepared they actually might do better work while I'm gone than when I'm there. First off, they might surprise you, and I've found they do frequently. Secondly, if I'm going to lead my team effectively, if I'm running burnt out, I am not bringing my A game because I'm too tired. As I said earlier, I was exhausted. I was exhausted all the time. I didn't take enough time away to fully recharge and regenerate because I'd find a way to reconnect even when I was away. So then I started getting real disconnection time to the point where I have a problem with my phone. Let's get real. I click on the same apps. I open the phone, email. Open the phone, LinkedIn. It's terrible. I delete those apps off my phone when I go away now. And I just clarify with my team, I am away. Don't call me or text me unless something's burning to the ground. Handle it. I trust you. You know what's going on. But I'm not checking email and I'm not checking LinkedIn and I'm not doing those are the 2 I'm the worst with. So I just delete them off my phone. But it feels incredible now. Now I come back, I'm chomping at the bit. I'm I want to check my email. I want to find out what's going on. I'm excited. And I get back and I'm like, let's fucking go. And I'm so excited. And guess what? I have more creative ideas. I got an energy that's the tank's fully back up to full. And it wasn't empty. I don't get empty anymore because I can now predict. I'm oh, look at this stretch is busy. That's a lot. I know this drains me. This is going to be a tough section. Book some time off after that. Don't let the tank empty.
That clarity that you're talking about is what everybody needs to find, I think, for themselves. Because if you liken it to, the gas tank of a car, what is it that fuels you and what is it that drains you?
As I got more in touch with who I was as a person and as a leader to be at the front of that room leading others, I'm my energy just fails when I go to the mountains. It's just it's turning up the volume on my life. I'm feel incredible. I'm like, I need to do this more. So a lot of my vacations are often centered around mountains. I book stuff in the mountains, even if it's just me sometimes on my own. I'll go on my own, which I love now.
You mentioned this, just a few minutes ago, but this idea of being clear on what success means to you so that you have this driving forward goal. It's really interesting, and I'll be transparent about something that, like, this is a question that I ask almost every episode. What does success mean to you? And it's a very interesting question for multiple reasons, but this means a lot more because it stuck with me that I think everybody really does, beyond, what does it mean to you specifically, but everybody needs to be clear on this idea. What is it for you?
Yeah, multifaceted success for me. And it's evolving. I love reinventing myself and who I am and what I do. There's a common thread that runs through it all, but I hold this loosely because I'm ready for the next version as it evolves. One of them is good relationships. With my wife, we're 27 years now married, and really value that relationship and have evolved and grown with her immensely over that time. A relationship with my kids. I'm not a hero. I've empowered them to do good work, that they are going to own that success or failure, whatever they encounter, and how do they learn from their failures. So relationships, friends and family and extended, etc. So relationships. B, a measure of business success. My success in business is, I said money has never been the most important. It's not. It's the impact. The sporting goods business was all about making athletes' lives better. I had people in tears in my booth saying I changed their life. I'm like, that's why I do what I do. That always filled my cup. Now I get to work with leaders in the room, and yeah, we make a better business. It's phenomenal. They get to come together as a team and accomplish something, and I'm not the hero there. I'm just kind of like the Sherpa. Like, hey, that's the peak we're going. You want to go there? They're like, yeah. I'm like, okay, let's figure out how to go there. I'll tell you where not to step. And here's good tools you could use on the way. So that's really fun for me. And it impacts their business dramatically, but it changes their lives too. And that's just fulfilling for me. Success in my sporting goods business is like, great, I built it to here. Now, how do I transition out of the day-to-day, still own the business, and not fuck it up? That was my success. That's why I got a mentor for that. Like, I don't want to be the owner that seagull ownership comes in, flies in, craps all everything, then flies away, right? I'm like, I want to be the good non-present owner, right? So that was my success shifted to that. So that was a fascinating experience to learn from someone who'd done that successfully. And then, yeah, building a new kind of business with the EOS practice of like, well, how do I just become the best EOS implementer on the planet, or like in that conversation, and just, so how do I invest and learn and unwrap that whole experience? To lately is like 2 businesses I've started in the last 12 months are both me as a coach, investor, mentor, EOS implementer, but not day-to-day active. So one with my son, one with a business guy that I know and love and trust. And so I'm playing this new role of like, how do I empower you to become the leader of a business? So that's sort of the phase that I get to go, and, working with my son has just been absolutely one of the most incredible things I've ever done, of all the things I've ever done. It's so fun to go and chase that and intentionally go and make progress towards that.
I mean, I love the idea of it being a moving target, right? I think a lot of people kind of have this idea that, it's a stationary thing, and once you achieve it, it's like, okay, I'm good. But, that's how you become complacent. And it sounds like you're asking yourself the right questions along the way, right? Like,
yeah, it's kind of like holding the bird in your hand, right? You squeeze it too hard, it's not going to go well for the bird. But like, I think this is the right goal. Like, let's go for it. Be intentional and be excited and do the things to move towards it. But also know, like, ask myself every now and then, is this still the right definition for me? At this point it is.
Where can we send people to follow along?
So my main business, relentlesschrisjones.com. It has avenues to my EOS business. And then the business I've started with my son, we're just doing a rebrand right now. It's called Simple Solve AI. But we're helping people, we're making a really simple, approachable way to put chatbots in your ecosystem, whether that be for customers, sales funnel management, or internal, a wiki or a your HR policies or vacation or whatever, but we can provide very, very simple and very cost affordable solutions to the chatbot AI situation.
I feel like we've touched on a lot of topics, but we've also just scratched the surface. So
Yeah,
we're going to have to do this again.
Yeah, no doubt. I'd be happy to continue the conversation.
Awesome. Well, thank you for your time today. This has been awesome, and I'm looking forward to a part 2.
I appreciate it. Thank you.